Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the new year and our January product focus meeting. I am Scott Gannett, Director of Marketing for Hirose Americas. To start us off today, Dave Gallagher will be reviewing information on a new NPI. So we've got a new year, new product right out of the gate. The TF07V is a backflip FPC FFC connector. The TF07V is a really flexible for modern device design. It's perfect for applications that require both top and bottom contact design. It's got really strong good retention force. And this connector is an excellent choice when you're really thinking about seamless integration and making integration into a product even better. Next, TAC will be going over everyone a refresher on our very popular ZE05 series. This is a great connector. The ZE05 offers high heat and vibration resistance that's often required within automotive, but it is not exclusive to automotive. In fact, I'm sure TAC's going to talk to you a little bit about how we're seeing that bleed over for some of those applications into other market spaces where it makes a lot of sense. And then finally, Dave Gallagher will be reviewing the FX23. This is a board-to-board connector that features both power and high-speed signal transmission. So, one quick reminder: please don't forget to mute your phone during the session. If you have a question during the session, throw it on into the chat. I do monitor the chat as we're going along, and if I find that space to kind of integrate your question in, we'll get it in there. If we wait till the end, then I'll make sure it gets covered in the end. So I know sometimes it's like a question will pop up in my head, and then it's like throw it into the chat so you don't forget about it by the time of the end of the session. We will wrap up with a Q&A session, so please have any additional questions ready. Don't be afraid to unmute your mic at that point and ask away. You've got a great resource team here between Dave Gallagher, TAC Endo, and then also Pete Lace, our product management team. We will record the session, and it is posted on the Hirose extranet should you need to reference back to the video or the presentation. And so with that, I am very excited to turn the mic over to Dave Gallagher. Dave, take it away.
Awesome, Scott. Thank you very much. You covered all the features, so I guess are we done now? No. No, I appreciate the opening there. And as Scott mentioned, the TF07 is a new product starting off the beginning of the year here in our FFC, FPC products, adding a new item to the list. Kind of extending off of some existing designs that we have today to add a little bit more flavor to the product offering. So the TF07V series is a 0.5 millimeter pitch design, which is, if you're not too familiar, 0.5 millimeter pitch is one of the more popular pitch sizes that we see in flex FFC and FPC connections. And this falls into that category or family of size class. 2.1 millimeter height off the board, so it takes up very little space vertically as well. But the key feature on this thing is a couple of key features here. First off, it is a top and bottom contact design. And if you're not familiar with a top and bottom contact design, don't worry, I'm going to show you that on the next slide, so we'll cover that in a moment. The other key feature on this is that it is a backflip, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment here. So this product is just recently been added to the Hirose line. We're announcing it out today, and the package will go out to our distribution partners over the course of the next week and a half or so, and you'll start seeing it pop up in your sites as they get added in. So you keep your eye out for that as it becomes available for immediate shipments and stuff. So we appreciate that. So top and bottom contact designs. What I want to point out here is this, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody just recently about top and bottom contact, and I wanted to clarify something here. What it is that the contact design has points of contact that can either touch one side of the flex or the other. Now, this is not meant where you put traces on both sides of the flex. I just want to be very clear about this. Top and bottom contact is designed around the idea of routing your flex. Sometimes when you route a flex from one board to another, you would have to fold the flex in a manner so that the contacts face the correct direction when they go into the connector. With a top and bottom contact design connector, you don't have to fold the flex to achieve that result. It's easy if the two boards are side by side and they're running across just like this, but when you get into a case where you're going from the top of a board, and I wish this picture was a little bit different here, but when you go from the top of the board to the bottom of the board, or if the connector is upside down, one thing that you'll run into is the contacts on the flex may be on the incorrect side based on the orientation of the connector on the other board. So what we like to see is with a top and bottom contact, you don't have to put a fold in the flex to get it in the correct direction. The connector already has a contact point on either side, so it can mate up with the flex no matter what the orientation is. This is a big design benefit. The design benefit to your customer is that they're buying one connector. They don't have to buy a top contact for one board and a bottom contact for the other board when they're making the connection. More quantity on a single part number means, well, for your customer, better price, right? So they're buying more of a single item, better price point, but also they're inventorying half as many connectors, so it makes life a little bit easier. And that's one of the advantages of top and bottom contact design. The top and bottom contact also has excellent retention force, so that's a big plus within that design scope as well. The backflip feature that I mentioned earlier, what this is when you have the actuator, the location of the actuator on a backflip design, it is on the opposite side of where the flex enters. So there are two potential designs within the actuators, either front flip or back flip. And front flip means that right about where this flex is going in, there could be an actuator there. Now, if the cable is getting pulled upward towards the actuator, it is possible, depending on their design and their application, that it could bump the actuator and potentially force it open. So by using a back flip design, the flex cable is not going to come in contact with the actuator, so it stays nice and secure. Another thing I like to point out with the actuators on Hirose connectors, especially in comparison to our competitors, is just the robustness of them. These are great products when you're going to visit a customer and you know they're going to be looking for a flex design. It's good to bring one of these with you and have them play around with the actuator. And the reason why I mention that is because the experience that I hear from folks is like, actuators are weak. They're not very strong. They fall apart. I hear this type of thing in the field when I'm talking to folks. And I like to pull one of my biggest connectors I have in my sample kit out, and I hand that to them and say, go ahead and operate that actuator. And they'll try it out with a really big actuator, very long, high pin count. And they expect it to break, and they're trying to be delicate when they're doing it. I'm like, nah, just open it. And they do it, and they go, wow, that thing's really strong. This is a feature that comes from Hirose. Hirose developed the actuator originally. It's actually something that we invented for the market, and we actually design our actuators to be stronger than the typical ones that are in the industry. So feel comfortable operating the actuators. This is something that customers will mention to you that they struggle with these type connectors. They will not have that problem with the Hirose products. Another big advantage with this TF07V is that it has very nice tapering around the entrance point for where the flex goes in. So this little tiny detail you wouldn't really think is too important, but when you're working with a customer and they're dealing with production and volume, getting that flex to insert in, remember these things aren't huge. So when someone is trying to put that flex in, it's nice to have that tapering that helps guide it and get it into place and prevent them from making a mistake. It speeds up production, so that's an advantage from a cost standpoint for your customer. Oops. Go to my next slide here. There it goes. So when you're dealing with an actuator style connector, we ship the connectors with the actuator in the open position. This allows manufacturing to place the connector on their board, go through their reflow process. They come out, they just insert the flex, and it's one more step to close the actuator. So it's a total of only 2 steps. This speeds up the operation because we ship the connector with the actuator open. This helps them out in their manufacturing. Saving costs. That's what it really boils down to. So I mentioned that we have quite a few families of products, and I just grabbed a little snippet here of some similar products within our line. TF07 is very similar to our FH34 series and our TF31. And folks will ask me, well, what is the difference between some of these different connectors? And I wanted to point out TF07 is available in 4 pin counts in the 30 to 60 pin count range. FH34 SRJ is a product's been around for a while. Awesome product. Love it. I use it as kind of one of my go-to products in the flex category. Big difference between the 34 SRJ and the TF07V is that the TF07V can support those side catchers that help hold the flex and align the flex in. The 34 SRJ does not have the side catchers in the design. Now, there is an FH34D. So some of you are saying, Dave, I've seen a 34 that has side catchers. Yes, that's the FH34D. Think of the TF07V almost like an extension of that 34D product, because what we've got here is that pin counts on the 34D is 4 to 20. There's various pin counts available between 4 and 20 pins, whereas the TF07V starts at 30 and goes up to 60. So it's kind of like an extension to this. It's a little bit bigger than this connector as a result, because it's a bigger contact pin count. But think of it as something above the FH34D. So if they really like the SRJ, the really compact small size, it's great. It's 4 to 50 pins. But if they need to go up to, say, 60 pins or something a little bit bigger than what that's offered in either of these two options, and they want those side catchers, then the TF07V is a great fit. TF31 is also a similar product to this family. It is not a backflip design, so if they need that backflip style, the TF31 is not backflip. They would use the TF07V, but it also does not have the top and bottom contacts. So you can see the first 3 in this category have the top and bottom contacts. TF31 does not. TF31 does have a nice availability of pin counts, so that 4 to 60 pins. So it does have a nice wide variety of pin counts, and it also does have those side catchers, which is a benefit to some customers who may be looking for that feature. So let's talk a little bit about applications here. We have quite a few applications potential for this type of product. Typically, we're going to see this in the medical and industrial space. You can use it in like gaming machines and notebook PCs, as I have on the display here, but more often than not, I'm going to see it in the larger type of equipment based on the size of the flex that's used in the higher pin count. The side catchers tend to be conducive to that market as well. Folks in the industrial type of realm usually prefer flex with those side catchers on it, and this connector does have that within the scope of the design. Let's talk a little bit about size of this connector from a physical standpoint. It is a nice small, I mentioned earlier, 2.1 millimeter vertical height off the board. The other thing I'd like to point out is if the actuator is open, it is also still a very small connector at 3.8 millimeters with the actuator open. This means that if they are dealing with tight spaces to open that actuator up, this connector does not take up a lot of space. Again, this shows the picture of the top contact, bottom contact style of flex. So you can insert in either direction and that will work for you. Pretty standard from a specification standpoint from current load on a connector. It's a 0.5 millimeter pitch, so the 0.5 amp rating is what applies to this connector. Fits well within that industrial market. Looking forward to seeing some great opportunities coming up in the future for that. Any questions on the TF07 before I turn it over to TAC? No questions. Awesome. TAC, take it away.
Okay, let me share the screen.
That you compete against on the TF07V, or is it your advantages that make it better?
So Hirose is well known for the flex connectors as far as the durability and ruggedness of our products, so we would compete. I actually just looked over at the chat box and I noticed somebody had asked about other manufacturers. This is a Hirose product. It's not something that we buy from somebody. This is designed and built and manufactured by Hirose, so it is not available from other manufacturers.
Okay. That was me, by the way, asking.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I can't actually see who's talking.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks.
Great question.
All right, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your time. Yep. Let me explain about ZE05 as relaunch because this product is one of our key push products for not only automotive, but also industrial applications. And today, let me put priority on its industrial usage. ZE05 is 0.5 millimeter wide male terminal, 2 millimeter pitch automotive wire-to-board connector. The key competitive advantages and benefits to customers are space saving, especially height of double row type, width of single row type, and depth, and high heat resistance up to 125 C, high vibration resistance, and robot assembly friendliness. Scott, could you post the poll question for ZE05?
You got it, TAC, coming right up.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me move on. ZE05 has wide variation, including right angle and, this is basic dimensions. ZE05's concept is achieving small size and high reliability. And ZE05 has wide variations, including right angle and straight cabling orientation, and selectable PCB retention tabs of through hole for higher retention, and SMT for utilization of the backside of PCB because of no penetration to it. This is ZE05's global sales revenue by market segment. And what I want to point out here is 27% of the sales is for non-automotive applications, where reliability is the key buying factors. This is the comparison with major competitors. Color-coded like dark blue is excellent, light blue good, and no color is fair. As you can see, ZE05 is advantageous in size and vibration resistance, and actual values are shown here. Smallest dimensions at width and depth at single row type, and smallest at height and depth at double row type. So why size advantage varies at double row or single row? It is due to our unique contact alignment. At double row, we skip pins not to interfere with locking structure here. This is because we prioritize lowering height over width. Most of competing products does not skip pins like this. So locking structure needs to position upper than ZE05 like this, making overall connector height larger. This is why ZE05 double row type is lower in height than competitors. For single row, we don't skip pins because ZE05 single row is signal pin, small pin counts like 2 pins, 4 pins, and if we skip pins, connector width will be unacceptably wide for such a small pin count. And depth is also made to be the smallest class in the industry. This shows ZE05's high vibration resistance. We conducted vibration testing at 8.9 G acceleration at 120 degrees C, and ZE05 shows stable contact resistance for 300 hours, whereas this competitor's one, actually company J's one, contact resistance started to increase after 6 hours. ZE05 contact is tin-plated to save cost, and these competitors use gold plating, which should be advantageous about contact resistance. So why ZE05 is better with tin plating? The answer is thanks to its reliable contact structure. Double spring holding structure generates strong contact pressure, which prevents contact points between male and female contacts from moving under vibration. And three-point contact design secures reliable connection. Thanks to such designs, ZE05 achieves high vibration resistance even with tin plating. Here is the variation plan or development roadmap of ZE05. Here's the existing one, and we are planning high pin count version up to 40 pins, currently up to 24 pins, plug with CPA, which stands for Connector Position Assurance. This is a kind of secondary lock to make sure connector is fully locked and not removed accidentally. And thin wire version for the needs of weight saving and high voltage trend, as higher voltage allows lower current when sending same output power, and lower current can be supported by thinner wire. And inline type and high voltage type. When you get such needs, please let us know. And as a manufacturing trend, more and more assembly work is done by robots, and it's same for wire-to-board connector assembly. ZE05's plug housing design is perfect for chucking by robot hand, enabling robot hand assembly. So please note, not all the competitors is such kind of robot assembly friendly shape. And here's the demo in International Robotics Show. Let me play. Okay. This is the case study for industrial applications. ZE05 4, 8, 12, 20 pins are used for signal transmission for storage battery for home and industrial use and generate as big as $4 million of annual revenue. For this kind of industrial application in US, customers may request connectors to be UL certified, which is not requested in automotive industry, by the way. And ZE05 got UL certification as 60 volt 2 amp wire to board connector. And we sell it as a separate UL version with UL label on the box and add UL related cost on it. Here's a quick recap of ZE05. ZE05 is 0.5 millimeter wide male terminal, 2 millimeter pitch automotive Y2 board connector. The key competitive advantages and benefits to customers are space saving, especially height of double row type, width of single row type, and depth, and high heat resistance up to 125C, high vibration resistance, and robot assembly friendliness. And thank you, and that's all from me today.
Any questions for Tech on the ZE05?
I think you're good to jump into the FX23.
Cool. Okay. FX23. This product has been around for a while, and many of you have heard it before and probably saying, why are we bringing this one up again? Well, it's super popular, and that's why. We want to make sure everybody's familiar with it. If you haven't heard about this particular series, the FX23 and 23L. Get my slide to advance here. There it goes. All right. So the FX23 series has a floating hybrid power and data board-to-board connector. And this product has proven to be very popular amongst our customers, and we want to make sure that you're presenting it and showing it to customers when you're speaking with them. Our hope is that by showing that customers can take their power and data signals, which traditionally were on two separate connectors, you can combine that together in a single connector that also has a floating feature in it, which will allow the absorption of misalignment. So this thing has lots of cool features, and it does fall within our automotive infotainment class of products. So you can even use it for automotive customers as well as customers in the robotics industry. So when I think of this type of product, I really, for our market area here in North America, I really think about that robotics industry as a strong contender, someplace where this product will fit really nicely with. So let me just switch over to my application slide. Oh, I meant to delete that watch. So you're not going to put that in one of these things. So types of projects, I mentioned robotics, right? Automated warehousing, that type of application. Those are areas where you're going to see this type of board-to-board connector potentially be used. There's a lot of wire-to-board in those systems, but there's also some applications where folks need some data capability and power delivery between a couple of their circuit boards. The connector has that floating feature, which means that if they have multiple boards that come together, they have less of a concern about alignment between the two boards. When they come together, the connector can absorb some of that misalignment aspects of the two boards during the assembly process. It also means that the connector is a little bit more durable during that assembly process, which will help out. Now, when you have multiple connectors on a single board, that is an aspect that we also want to mention. So when you see a customer's PC board design and you see multiple board-to-board connectors on it, and none of them have a floating feature, that means every single connector on that board has to be perfectly aligned with each other in order to get that insertion of the two boards to be nice and smooth. And if you've ever put together a pair of boards that have multiple connectors on them, you'll find if they don't have the floating, it's very difficult to actually put them together. They don't slide together very easily. The floating feature of the FX23 is conducive to that type of market. So that's why the industrial market, where some of the boards are a little bit larger, this may play into the hands of those type of customers that you're working with. The other area I see a lot of is medical industry. Medical type products can definitely benefit. They are a little bit larger type products. Now, from a size standpoint, I want to mention here that it's from 8 millimeters to 30 millimeters on the stack height with the FX23 series. So 8 millimeters is actually fairly small, and we go from 20 pins up to 120 pins within this product family. There are some other applications that we can consider and look at and make a mention of. Things like car navigation, any kind of servo motor. Those are other potential market areas that I would see this type of connector being used in. Base stations or transmission stations. Backhaul is another terminology that sometimes you hear out in the field. backhaul devices or small office, home office type routers and Wi-Fi type of hubs. Actually, we are working in some applications related to that industry with the FX23 already, so it's pretty exciting to see the product continue to expand. So let's take a little bit closer look at that floating feature so you can see kind of how it works. When you have two PC boards that are on separate areas, now you wouldn't want to use the connector to support those PC board connectors. The same rules apply with any board-to-board installation. We expect to see standoffs in that design where you'd be able to hold the boards together. But during the assembly process, having that floating feature means that if you don't have perfect alignment between the two boards, that will absorb it. You can see the connector actually has portions within the inside of it that can move to absorb that difference. And you can see on this picture here, this is the typical advantage when you're dealing with multiple connectors. Those two connectors may be off, and it's the XY range on this connector that helps absorb that into the design. So that's a big plus for our customers. Another feature of this thing I want to mention is that it's a hybrid connector, power and data. There are 4 contact pins located in the alignment guides on the ends of the connector, and those 4 pins are designed to carry higher current values. Now, traditionally what customers would do is they would group up a bunch of contacts, and typically in a connector this size, you're talking about 0.5 amps per contact, and they'd use a bunch of contacts to deliver power. So if we were going to deliver equivalent value of 3 amps per each of those 4 pins, or a total of 12 amps, you would take 24 pins in your connector to do that. Depending on what you're running for a data signal, you could effectively double or more the size of the connector that you're working with just to carry power. This connector carries that power in still a compact space by utilizing existing space in the connector to carry power pins for that. Now, I want to make a special note, and this is one of those did you know moments, and just remember this in the back of your head, is that this connector can also potentially support a higher current value on these pins. And so if you have a customer who's looking to push the envelope beyond the 3 amps, give us a call, because we can, depending on the design of their system, we could potentially run this as high as 5 amps per pin. But we'd want to talk to the customer about that design. So get us involved with that application, and we can understand some of the details a little bit more detail. Yeah, if I could get that out there, a little bit more details about their project that they're working on, so we can understand what the situation is. Get us involved with those calls. This connector is available in its traditional mezzanine style interface, but it's also available in a right angle interface with floating in both cases. And in the catalog, which is available on our website, there is a nice configuration chart that I wanted to point out to you. This shows the various available heights, and there's actually one in the catalog for the right angle configuration for physical size as well, but I wanted to point out the mezzanine version specifically. Each height is listed within this chart, and it will show the combination of the 2 connectors. So this connector plus this piece up here, and they show the partial part number up there, just missing the pin count number, will give you a certain height at 8 millimeters. And if you were looking for 19 millimeters, it would be this version connector with this one. This chart makes it very easy to find the version that you're looking for. Now, I want to point out a couple of things about the floating. We offer this, you've heard the term single float and double float in some of our marketing materials. What we're referring to is the range of float. The advertised range is plus or minus 0.6 millimeters, but we can, depending on the stack height variation, go as high as 1.2 millimeters, because both sides of the connector may have the floating feature in it. Normally, you'd only have one side or the other that would have that floating feature, but we do have the potential for that. So in this case, in the upper left corner box, we have 3 heights that have this single float, and they run from the 8 millimeters and go up from there to 12 millimeters. And then we go to the next box over to the right-hand side. This is the double float, which is available in 2 heights, 14 and 19 millimeter, and that's the plus or minus 1.2. I also like to point out, oops, it went backwards, wrong way. There we go. I also like to point out these stack heights right here, and these do not have any float at all. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Some customers look at the floating connectors and say, well, we really don't need floating in our application, and I really don't want to add a feature that they haven't used before. And they think of it, they view it as maybe something that's very expensive to add. And it really isn't, quite frankly. We're very competitively priced in the field on these connectors. But if they don't necessarily need that floating, but they want that hybrid power and data capability, we do have a range of stack heights that have no floating feature on them at all. So that is listed right in that catalog chart. And then finally, the taller stack heights are single float in this design. Again, back to that plus or minus 0.6 millimeter floating range. So be sure to use the catalog when you're talking to customers about the FX23 series, because this chart will make life so much easier for you to pick out the right combination of part numbers based on the height needed by the customer. And the part number is listed right in the catalog, and the only thing you got to fill in is the pin count to pick out the right one. So like FX23L, and there's a couple of stars there, asterisks for where the pin count goes in the part number, and the rest of it is very easy to understand. So be sure to have this chart and use it, or if you're using our presentation slide, this is a great slide to use when you're talking about the FX23 series. Now, I just want to take a moment to mention to you there are some resources available on our website. I will put some links. There are links in the presentation, but I'll actually toss a couple of these links into the chat box in a little bit here. Our new 2024 connector selector is now available. This is brand new. And backed by popular demand is the index, the part number index that was at the back of the catalog. I know it wasn't in our 2023. And we appreciate your patience as we now have it back in our 2024 based on popular demand, actually very loud demand requesting it. So we appreciate that feedback. We did add that back into the catalog. It is available. There is a link available for it in the presentation. And I'll, before we end the call, I'll put it into the chat box as well. I've mentioned flex connectors and all the different varieties that are available in the market at Hirose, all the different options we have. There is a selection guide that is available on our website to help you identify and narrow down the focus of flex connectors. So if you're concerned, obviously the connector selector is a great tool, but if you want something just focused on flex connectivity, this guide is available on our website. Again, I will put a link for that into the chat box, but it's also in the presentation. As always, YouTube is a great resource. Scott's marketing team is expanding the amount of YouTube videos that we are doing. So be sure to jump over to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and make sure notifications are turned on. So that way you'll get notifications about when we post new video content to our YouTube channel. These videos are great tools to make your job easier when selling the Hirose products to your customers. There are videos as short as 10 seconds on our site, and there are nice detailed descriptions of many of our products. Hit into the search box. You can search for some of the different families and see some cool video content that is continuing to expand. So I'll make sure I put those links in there. Pete, I don't know if you're on the call today. I think you were, don't know if you were going to jump in there or
sir.
not.
No, I'm good. I'm good
okay.
for today. Thank you, Dave.
No problem. I didn't know if you were going to say. I know you've done it in the past. So before I ask more questions, I wanted to give you the opportunity. But if anybody's got any additional questions, feel free to throw them into the chat box or hit that unmute button and go ahead and ask a question. Ask away.
Pete, did you want to have anything additional you want to cover?
No, Scott, I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay.
I do see some. Maybe you want to check the chat box. I haven't checked it myself, but you might want to check the chat box. Make sure there's no that we address questions.
So a couple questions are popping up. Yes. Will presentation slides be made available after today's meeting? And yes, they are available. They are available on our extranet. So if you have access to our extranet, you can grab them there. If you also reach out to one of the Hirose sales folks or one of our distribution managers, they can also get copies of this material for you at any time. Another question was, I'm new. How do I go about obtaining samples? Great question. There's a couple different places you can go to grab samples. One is the extranet. The other is, again, reach out to one of your salespeople and they can help you coordinate getting samples. Any other questions? Go
I
ahead,
went
Dave.
ahead and posted those links inside the chat box for each of the different series that we presented today up on our website. I also put a link in there for the 2024 connector selector and that online FFC FPC selection guide, so you can access that right on our website. That's an interesting question. What is the fastest growing market industry you are most pursuing lately? Where should we focus? I'll be honest with you. Hiroshi covers quite a wide range of markets. And so from what I am seeing activity, I see a lot of activity in the medical industry. I think coming out of the COVID timeframe, there was a lot more funding available to some of our medical customers. So I certainly saw some growth and experience there. The industrial market, though, I would say is probably the strongest growth market in general. Folks are looking at automation constantly. We all have heard the stories about difficulty with staffing and people and at various companies. So automation is a big term today, and we're hearing that from all of our customers across the board. And not just in the warehouse realm. Looking at connector design, look at the stuff we did for the automotive, for automation there using robotics. The companies that make those robotic systems are a great opportunity for you. When you're working with those type of customers, bear in mind, there is a wide variety of connectors that can be used in those applications. And a typical warehouse robot has quite a bit of dollars worth of content in them between wire to board, board-to-board connectivity, and wire-to-wire, and even I/O connectors on the outside. And don't forget wireless. Hiroshi has wireless as well. So we have a wide variety of products that fit that market. And you can take, instead of selling maybe a $1 connector, if you add up all the pieces that are inside of an industrial robot or an automation type device, you could literally be talking about $50 to $100 worth of content just in the connectors alone. And when you think about a buy of 5,000 to 10,000 or even 100,000 robots, that becomes a really nice project to be working on. So look for those automation type customers, because you'll typically find a variety of connectivity solutions needed in those applications. And at the end of the day, folks, people don't honestly think about the wire to board connectors first of mind. They're thinking about the high-end IC chips, the software, the programming, the physical outside design. Wire tends to be at the very end of that, and connectivity tends to be at the end of that scale. Hiroshi can really help your customer out. Get us involved with those projects. We can really help your customer out in identifying the best way to make that connection. Hiroshi knows connectors. I don't expect your customer to know connectors, but we can help them choose the best connector to either save time, save money, or save space on their design. So be sure to get us involved with those projects. Really appreciate that question. Great one.
Dave, one more question there. Do you have a list of most in-demand part numbers for industrial and medical applications?
We have some guides that are available on our website, application guides. They have a list of some of the more common connectors used in certain industries. Actually, we have a whole section on our website that is devoted to applications. And if you're working with a customer, be sure to check that out. We got a couple minutes here. I know we're running up on the end of our time here. I'm just going to pull out the application page. Let me jump to our website here. I'm just going to slide this over onto our screen so you can see it. So when you're on our website, applications right in the top center here, when you click on that, there's a bunch of different applications that you can choose through. There are guides and information under each of these applications to help you identify connectors based on the customer you're going to have a call with. Feel free to click on it, because you may find that we can help identify a particular connector for your customer based on what type of project that they're working on. So if they're working on, say, MRI, CT type of applications, we have all kinds of product information that is available on our website to help identify and narrow down the range of possible products. And even these brochures, you can click on them, you can download them, print them, and bring them with you to the customer site, or you could potentially email it to your customer to help identify and help them narrow down the types of products to focus on. Sorry, long answer to your question there.
Questions for Dave, Tack, or Pete today? All right. Okay, we are at the end of our time today. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it. Just remember, the resources you talked to here today are all available to you. They're just a short phone call away. Don't forget to leverage your regional distribution managers as well as your sales contacts to help you. So thank you again. Our next session will be Wednesday, February 14th. Where we will have some new products and some product refreshes again. Look forward to talking, everyone. I just realized that is Valentine's Day. So, you know what? Connectors are close to my heart. So we will
I'm
be
expecting
celebrating
flowers
that.
and candy from everybody next time. I love candy.
Excellent. So with that, we'll wrap it up today. Everyone have a great day.
Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank